Welcome back to the Birdcage podcast. I'm joined alongside Grady Johnson, back to do a recap for the first, I guess, second exhibition game, last game before regular season gets going. Grady, how are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
Good. The Kansas Jayhawks, I almost said Creighton Blue Jays, the Kansas Jayhawks with a 31 point win against Washburn, 84-53 on Tuesday. Grady, you were in attendance for the game. How was the atmosphere at Allen Fieldhouse, first of all?
It was it was great. It wasn't obviously what you will see when, the Houstons, the Arizonas, the K-States, those schools come in. I mean, there were some empty seats here and there, but for an exhibition game in, the end of October, 7 o'clock game, obviously students are probably not caring as much because of classes and it's Washburn and whatnot. But I thought it was a good environment. I thought that the renovations were nice. There was one legitimate gripe I had, and I think everybody is going to have this gripe, and it's that the air conditioning ventilation was terrible. So it was a sauna in there, but I thought overall it was a good atmosphere for an exhibition game, and I mean, obviously, next Friday when North Carolina comes to town, it's going to be 100 times better.
Yeah, that was not the gripe I thought you would have, Grady. I saw a few people complaining on Twitter or on X, I guess, excuse me, about the scoreboard and how it
Oh,
didn't show fouls.
that was my second gripe, but I wasn't too mad about that one just because I had the stats in front of me
Yeah.
broadcasting it. But I did notice that, and I was like, "Wait, where is the foul box? Like, we can't see where the fouls are." So,
I think
um,
that's such a big part of the game
yeah,
for the fans. Just being
yeah,
able to immerse yourself in the game and knowing what the situation is, who's got fouls,
exactly, yeah,
who's got points, who's playing good. I think that's a big part of just the fan experience.
yeah, I'd
And
agree.
not I a lot of people would look at it and be like, it's not that important. But actually,
I
that
enjoy
kind of
it.
that would I enjoy looking at it. That would kind of be a bummer for me.
Yeah, I mean we had the two corner scoreboards show I mean individual fouls and points and then who's on the court, but like nothing with team fouls. It's like a very tiny bonus box is like highlighted on the center hung scoreboard when they get to that point, but I mean as you said, it's really hard to see what the situation is, who may need to foul, how many fouls you have to give. And I think it's also just a part of that experience. You're right. People are there to watch the game. They're not going to want to sit on their phones or go check their phone just to see how many fouls are, how many
Yeah.
fouls it have. So, um, and that part, KU Athletics did a tiny bit of a poor job. But I hope it is something that they can easily fix. And in my opinion, it is something that they could easily fix.
Yeah. I think overall, Allen Fieldhouse, the renovations have been very good. I feel like a lot of people have been very happy with what KU Athletics and what they've been able to kind of do to the newly renovated Allen Fieldhouse. But kind of as we expected, Grady, Kansas came out and kind of took care of business against Washburn.
Yeah, it was the big three transfers, and we talked about this on Monday night. It was David Coit, Zeke Mayo, and Rylan Griffin.
Mhm.
David Coit got the start over Zeke Mayo just because Bill said in his postgame that he wanted Zeke to shoot a little bit more, and we saw Zeke shoot a little bit more. He was 6 of 9 from the field, 4 of 6 from three for 16 points. David Coit was the energizer in the starting lineup. He had 19 points, 5 of 10 shooting, but I was really impressed with the job that he did on the defensive end. Kansas decided to
Yes.
add a lot of pressure. They pressed Washburn, a majority of made baskets, and it sped Washburn up, got him out of their system. Washburn was out there starting point guard Sam Ungashik. So you didn't have that necessary ball handler that the Ichabods are used to. And I think David Coit did a really good job of exploiting that and making Washburn, how work with 20 seconds on the shot clock instead of maybe 25 or 26. And then Rylan Griffin dealing with a tiny bit of a hip flexor. I don't think it hurt him too much. I don't think he was held back by it. 4 of 8 from the field, 4 of 7 from three, 2 of 2 from the free throw line for 14 points. I thought everyone there was great. If I go back to Diggy for just a second, the thing that stands out to me the most about his performance is a stat sheet thing. His plus minus was 44.
Yeah. He was definitely the best player on the court from anyone just watching the game. You could tell
Yeah.
he was impacting it offensively, defensively, finding open shots, creating open shots, and then finding his teammates for open shots. We did touch on it on Monday. We talked about how the transfers just need to use these exhibition games to get going.
Yeah.
Get used to the system, just get adapted. And they took advantage of that. Coit had 19. Rylan Griffin had a great game. Rylan Griffin had a great game as well. And then not only Rylan Griffin, but even Zeke Mayo. Like you mentioned, you touched on it earlier. Bill Self said just wanted Zeke Mayo to shoot the ball. And that's why Coit got to start over him, is because he said he didn't see that kind of in practice. Well, Zeke Mayo went out there and shot the ball, and he did a great job. He went 4 of 6 from deep, like you touched on. AJ Storr still needs to adjust.
Yeah, I'd agree.
It's an adjust from the Big 10 to the Big 12. And you can talk about the exhibition games all you want. Yeah, they're here for those guys to kind of get adjusted, but it's still going to be a complete system change. AJ
Yeah.
Storr went from being the number one option on his Wisconsin team to now having to actually play a role.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see why he's struggling a little bit, but it was definitely nice to see Rylan Griffin and Zeke Mayo contribute.
Yeah, and you're right. He is adjusting from being the number one guy, AJ Storr is adjusting from being the number one guy to playing a role. Because I don't think there is a superstar on this team, in my opinion. I think that there's so many good players on this team that any one of them could kill you on any given night.
Mhm.
And Hunter Dickinson didn't even play last night, and he didn't play against Arkansas. So that's a whole nother thing that you get into once, Hunter Dickinson comes back. Shaq Moore didn't play last night. He's not as much of a scorer more than he is a, very good on ball and off ball defender. I think he's a better off ball defender than he is an on ball defender. And
Mhm.
that's another thing going with, you got to get the transfers acclimated. I think Shaq Moore not playing, I don't think it hurts you in terms of needing to get those guys acclimated, but you would have liked him to play
Yeah.
just because he has a little bit of that experience. And obviously, these games don't count. You can run whatever you want to run
Mhm.
without anything, nothing holding you back.
Yeah. I agree. I think it would have been nice to see Shaq Moore out on the court, and obviously Hunter Dickinson not playing. I think he's okay. I think Hunter's okay. I think we're just sitting him out because of the exhibitions. I would expect him to be back for our first game against Howard next week. But speaking a little bit more about that system that AJ Storr's kind of struggling to fit in to right now, that system is going to change once Hunter Dickinson gets involved too.
Yeah, I think Hunter coming back into the lineup helps AJ just because Kansas is going to be able to get out and transition more. What they liked to do last year, and I think we'll start to see a lot more of this, and you didn't see this as much last night just because this is how versatile of a player Hunter is. Hunter will grab rebounds and then he'll look immediately to push. And I
Yeah.
think and compared to Flory or KJ, because they'll just try to find a guard who's ready to take the ball off the court. Hunter will just full court fling it if he has to. And I think that really works out in AJ's favor because AJ's not a shooter by any means. He can shoot, but that's not what he wants to do, and it's not what he needs to do with this team. That's not his role. His role on this team is to get downhill and finish or get fouled. And if he can't finish or get fouled, kick out to one of your shooters on the outside.
100%. I agree. It is going to be different because he's playing on a new team, and I feel like a lot of people are just jumping the gun a little bit, talking about how he's not fitting in yet. Maybe it was not a very great place for AJ Storr to end up. A lot of things are just kind of not going necessarily not in his favor, but just not a thing. Not a lot of things are getting pushed like towards a positive narrative when it comes to AJ Storr right now.
Yeah.
Another thing that I want to touch on is Kansas shot the ball from deep.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Very well.
15 of 33 from behind the arc. Bill Self mentioned in his post game presser that I mean, great question by Mr. Ben Hook.
It's a great question.
But
It was a very good question.
Bill Self touched on it and said that this is going to be a team that he thinks needs to shoot around 40% from deep.
Yeah.
And if they shoot 40% from deep, Grady, let me tell you, there's not going to be a lot of teams in the country who can stop them.
It's hard to win a game when your opponent shoots 38, 39%, let alone 40%. I think another thing too, what Bill said is that they took over 50% of the shots taken were threes. And I
Yeah.
think he kind of wants that to be lower in the 40 to 45% range. I mean, last year he said that was like maybe 30% of their shots that they were taking were threes. So, I mean, obviously, David Coit, Zeke Mayo, Ryland Griffin, those guys come in. Bill brought them in the shoot, and they shot last night, and they shot at a very efficient clip.
Yeah, 100%. And even Hunter Dickinson can stretch the floor a little bit.
Yeah. And
This
that's
team,
another added dimension when he comes back.
yeah, this team can do it. And it's going to be very fun to watch. I was going to say something and it left my brain. So the more we talk about it, I'm sure it will come back to me.
Oh, you'll remember it sooner or
I'm
later.
sure I will. But just kind of looking at the overall stat sheet, KJ Adams and DeJuan Harris didn't have to do as much today.
No.
Um, Obviously there's a difference playing Arkansas and then playing Washburn, but it's kind of nice to see that even when I'm not going to say bad game because both of them went because KJ Adams went 4 for 4 from the floor and just didn't really have to score the ball today.
Yeah.
But like when KJ is not doing normal KJ things, like it's nice to see that he has guys around him this year that can help him.
Yeah, and I thought KJ was really good in the high-low 4-5 action between him and Flory. I think there were two different times where the Washburn defense came up on KJ as
Oh,
a double team because that was a lot of what their system was to try and trap. Then he just lob it, yeah, and just lobs and lobs and lobs. And I think that's what we'll see more when Hunter comes back in. It'll be more so KJ to Hunter, but I mean, yeah, KJ doesn't have to do a lot. Neither does Dewan. I think the guards surrounding this team, what we saw with that 21-22 national championship team is that Dewan Harris had shooters around him. He had guards around him who could play. The last 2 years, he hasn't really had that. And now he
mhm.
has that. And that takes so much stress off of him that now he can just be the floor general that he is. And he doesn't have to look to score.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's nice that he has guys around him that can also do that as well. Um, the next game is against Howard. Another
Mhm.
home game next week for the I was gonna say Creighton Blue Jays again. For the Kansas Jayhawks. I want a starting lineup prediction from you because obviously Zeke Mayo did not start yesterday.
He did not.
However, with Hunter Dickinson coming back, do you see a change in like I know Dickinson will start. That's a given. Do you see a
Yeah.
change between Coit and Mayo or even Mayo and Store? What do you think we're gonna roll out on against Howard in game one?
I want to say that I see a change between Coit and Store, but I don't think that will happen. Bill said that he loves to run Coit at the two, but I think that's more so a thing between Shaq and David. So we may see them as the second string. So if I had to put a lineup together, it would probably be I'd also put Zeke over AJ just because of his shooting ability. I think if
Oh,
AJ can get some runs with guys like David and Shaq, can be aggressive with them in the lineup, I think that'll help for now. So if I had to put together a starting lineup for Monday, I'd go Dewan at the one, Zeke at the two. Who else did I say? Uh, losing my train of thought. Hold on. Let me think about this here. Okay.
I think you're gonna go
I
AJ
think
Store.
I'd probably go AJ, but I'd like to see him more run the second guys because you're right. There's not really a two or a three there. So I'd probably go Dewan, Zeke, AJ, KJ, and then Hunter. and
Yeah.
then try to run a lot of AJ with Shaq and Coit, or maybe even Marquise Passmore. There's a lot of things that you can do with this lineup, and
And
I think it'll be very similar where the most a guy's going to play is maybe 25 minutes.
yeah, we what I noticed is we have so many options now. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know how big of a role Coit would have this year on the Kansas team. I knew
I
he
didn't,
was a good player. I knew he was a good player.
yeah,
I didn't know he was gonna have as big of a role as he's had the past two games. And even in late night at the Fog, he kind of showed out a little bit. But we even have Rylan Griffin, who you didn't mention, Rakeese Passmore, the freshman. We have Shaq Moore. Hopefully he can get 100% ready for game time here, and we'll see what he's about. We have so many options even on our bench. Jamari McDowell only played 13 minutes. I'm starting to think I had Jamari McDowell as my potential breakout player. I don't know kind of what direction that's heading, but we have a lot of guys on this team who can play.
yeah. Now, to your Jamari point, I liked a bit of what I saw out of Jamari, but this is kind of something that's really come up is what the redshirt situation is going to be, whether it's Jamari or Rakis. And I think right now it'll be Jamari who gets the red shirt.
Yeah.
Um, I like Jamari's game. I like the energy he brings off the bench. I just don't know if there is a full-fledged role for him on this team.
Yeah.
And I think if he can improve in this redshirt season, that next year come around when some guys graduate, you'll have to bring in some other guys in, but he'll be a veteran experience that is ready to go, that can make an impact immediately. But I think he'll get the red shirt. We probably won't know on the red shirt situation until maybe Saturday or Sunday. Probably
Yeah.
Sunday, because I think that's when Bill Self will meet with the media. Um, but yeah, and then I thought Rakis was okay last night. He was a lot better against
He
Arkansas.
didn't shoot the ball very well, but he did get his
No.
shots up while he was in the game.
Yeah, he had one moment there in the second half where he made a few nice drives. I think it was when we went on the 21-7 or 22-6, whatever run it was to begin the second half. He made some plays there. He got to the hole, he just couldn't finish. But I was impressed by what I saw out of Rakis. And then obviously Rylan Griffin was not phased by the hip flexor. He said he got very hot towards the end of the game and went out with a cramp. So luckily that wasn't the re-aggravation to the hip flexor. But I was really impressed with what I saw out of him on the offensive end, and then on the defensive end, he's long. He's a good
Yep.
on-ball defender, and he can use that length that he has to stay in front of guys and then get into passing lanes. And I think we saw that a little bit last night.
Yeah, it's impressive what Rylan Griffin's able to do on the defensive end of the ball. Because he was
Yeah,
a he was a good on-ball defender at Alabama.
yeah,
I actually think those words came directly from Bill Self in the
they
post.
did. They did,
He
yes.
was a good defender at Alabama, and he
Yeah,
can provide a lot of defensive versatility on this Kansas team. We bring in guys like AJ Storr in the past hasn't been the best defensive player. However, that's something that he is going to have to do if he wants to play on this Kansas team. And I know AJ Storr is gonna want to play. If
mhm.
there's one thing AJ Storr is gonna want to do, he's gonna want to play.
AJ Stored didn't transfer here to not play. So
Exactly. I would like KJ Adams. I think is a maybe an undersized five, potentially even like undersized, oversized four. Like KJ is definitely versatile on defense. We have Coit, who's a great defender. Juwan Harris, who was literally Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year 2 seasons ago. This team's going to be a hard team to score on.
yeah, and I think Bill Self has said this time and time again, and he reiterated it last night. But KJ can defend anybody 1 through 4. I mean,
Yes.
there's no issue with that. He's so athletic and so versatile and so smart defensively that anybody who he gets assigned to besides whoever is, 6'10", 6'11", you're going against, he can defend that guy.
Yeah.
Um, David Coit, really impressive, especially uh he helps Dewan out, which is why I kind of was a little iffy on like maybe you go Coit Mayo instead of Mayo Store in the starting lineup,
Yep.
just because Coit does a lot to help Dewan out, specifically him being a better on-ball presser. I think he's better in press defensive situations than DeJuan is, and so that takes off DeJuan as a defender because now he doesn't have that stress. Like you said, he was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year a few years ago. He was on the Wood and Naismith Defensive Player of the Year watch list,
Yeah.
so he's a capable defender. And then there's other capable defenders like Coit, like Adams, like Rylan Griffin, who don't get that mention. Probably should, but it is what it is. Maybe we see some of those down the line, but I think this is a lot better of a defensive team when you look at it compared and you watch them in person than maybe what we thought of at first when some of these guys started to commit.
Yeah. 100%. Last question, Grady, before we wrap this recap up. What were some struggles that you saw from Kansas? And like what did you see that could potentially scare you down the line?
Yeah, so and Bill Self said this too. A lot of what I'm saying is, from Bill Self, but a lot of this is very true. The on-ball screen defense was definitely not great. I thought it improved from the Arkansas game, but it's not where it needs to be. And
Yep.
that's another thing that's one thing that scares me when Hunter Dickinson comes back because he wasn't a very good screen defender last year
No,
and
it was
they're just gonna
probably
drag.
one of our worst screen
Yeah,
defenders
I
last year.
in my opinion, he was our weak link there, and teams are gonna utilize that. They're gonna drag Hunter up, bring him on a ball screen, and then guys are just gonna have lobs or get by him because Hunter's not the quickest guy in the world. I thought Flory was okay, and he can use his speed to recover to shots, and he did. He had 4 blocks, 3 or 4 blocks. It was 4, but I thought he was good. It could have been better, and I think it will get better, but that's just something to watch out for. And then I thought the transition defense was a little bit better. Not great, but Washburn was just missing a lot of shots. So I think
Yeah.
that helped you out. And then I think, oh gosh, I had another one and I can't remember it. But yeah, transition. Oh, and then the ball traps.
Yep.
That was Washburn's strategy, and it was clear and evident
And it
from the,
worked.
the beginning, and it worked.
They
It was
picked off DeLon a few times.
very effective in the first half where, Washburn or KU, excuse me, would get in the short corner or, they'd go to the sideline and Washburn would just bring another guy. And that was something that Washburn's head coach Brett Ballard was very enthusiastic about. I saw him a few times on the sideline screaming for one of his guys to come over and trap because Kansas hasn't seen that yet. They didn't see that against Arkansas. They
Nope.
probably won't see that a lot. I mean, obviously Houston, they're going to see it because that's what they do. I mean, they'll
That's
blitz.
what Houston does. They
That is
blitz the crap out of you.
that is Houston's,
MO. Yeah.
Houston's MO. That is what they are known for. But I think it was good that Kansas saw that. They weren't great against it, but it definitely helps and it got progressively better throughout the course of the game. But
Yeah.
certainly there at the very beginning, I was like, Washburn's causing a lot of turnovers, or at least difficult possessions where Kansas then had to make extra passes just to get out of it.
Yeah. You bring up a good point on the on like the trap not the trap, but the defensive ball screening.
Yeah.
Um that's gonna be something to look out for because I'm just thinking about my other team, Creighton. They do that all the time.
Yeah.
They'll bring Kalkbrenner up there, and I don't know if Dickinson would be able to stop that. Um, it's going to be important that he comes back ready to go
Mhm.
because we need to change definitely guarding that ball screen a little bit.
Yeah. I'd agree, and I think the matchup with Kalkbrenner, I know you're gonna do a preview when that game comes, but I think Kalkbrenner is a lot quicker than Hunter. So certainly when Kansas and Creighton meet, that is something that the Blue Jays could exploit just because Hunter's not the quickest guy in the world.
It's interesting because we saw teams last year kind of abuse that.
Yeah,
And so
there's
it's like,
State and yeah, there are some teams who did I think Missouri did a really good job of it when, I think that was a lot of the difference in it being a 9-point game compared to a 20-point game in which it should have been because Kansas was just better that night.
yeah,
But Missouri did some things on their offensive end that Kansas was like, we don't know how to defend this. And it was very evident that they didn't know how to defend it. And the ball screens is one of them.
Yeah, well, it didn't hurt them last night. The Kansas Jayhawks wrapped up exhibition play with an 84-53 win over Washburn. Grady Johnson, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. As always, this was fun once again.
And you guys, we'll see you next time.